Hi everyone, I'm Kiki Newman. Thank you so much for joining Coffee and Kabbalah, our weekly exploration of meaningful insights from the Parsha. In today's class on Parsha's Vayishlach, we will delve into 3 practical steps to navigate the impact of the distressing news and find comfort and solace for our neshama, our souls, in these challenging times. Keep watching for valuable guidance on how to uplift and comfort ourselves.
I was trying to find some comfort from the Parsha to what's going on. So we're in like an unprecedented era. We've been living through history, and hopefully this history, we get through to the other side and see the good side of it. But it's hard to escape from the news, because as much as we don't want to hear the news, it's in our faces. Everywhere we go, we are seeing and we're hearing stories of painful things that our brothers and sisters are going through. And I think that everyone deep down, like neshama, is like weighed down and feeling heavier. And where a lot of us are mostly like coping. The way I cope is just trying to distract from it and not look at the news. And when I do see it, my immediate knee-jerk reaction is just to like numb or distract and do something that I don't have to think about this, because thinking about it is impossible. And especially as a mother, thinking about the things that the mothers are going through and the children, it's really difficult. So in this Parsha, the Parsha's Vayishlach, we have some guidance from Yakov and how he dealt with Esau. So as we learn in Kabbalah, Yakov and Esau are not just 2 historical figures. They exist within every one of us. Every one of us has 2 souls, 2 parts to our being. We have our Yakov, our altruistic, selfless, godly neshama that wants to be better and do the right thing and connect to Hashem and learn and daven and have a moon all the time. And then we have the part of ourselves that we live with much more frequently, much more often. For the most of our existence, we're living with our Esau inside of us, our physical, materialistic, human body that, most of our lives are taking care of our body. And this conflict between our Yakov and Esau is something that happens all the time. And Tanya, the book of Tanya, is dedicated to explaining to every person what's going on beneath their soul, the Yakov and Esau struggle that's happening between us, the 2 souls we have, the godly soul and the animal soul. The godly soul, who is the Yakov, the animal soul, which is the Esau, right? And this struggle between them that exists constantly. And when we recognize that struggle and aware of that struggle, we exist on a much deeper level of awareness, and we're able to overcome those struggles and be at peace, at more peace, and know what to do when those struggles arise. And the battle between Yakov and Esau comes to a head in this week's Parsha. Vayishlach begins with Yakov sending malachim to scout out to see that if he hears that Esau is coming towards him, and he wants to know, is Esau here? Did he forgive me for stealing his blessings 20 years ago when he vowed to kill me? Or does he still want to kill me? And the messengers come back and they say he's the same Esau and he has 400 men. So he still wants to kill you. And so this is the head. And Kabbalistically, what's happening is that this is the story inside all of us. Has Esau changed? We have this Yakov inside of us that says, is Esau still my enemy? Is my body still fighting me? Is my materialistic urges, my physical urges, my human bodily world, is that still fighting me? And 20 years later, our bodies still are our enemy in a way. It stops us from achieving our biggest inhibitors to achieving our greatest godly given potential is our own ego, our own animal soul, our own limitations, our own self-imposed fears and limitations and physical materialistic pulls, our laziness, our selfish desires, our in the moment, what we want in the moment versus what we want in the long run, etc. So 20 years later, the battle still exists. I remember hearing a story of a Chabad mashpia who's like a tzaddik, and he was asked for praying for girls, and I think he declined for his high school. He said that even 8-year-olds have a Yetzer Hara. Most people have no problem with it, but he was so self-aware and saying that like your Yetzer Hara, your Esav doesn't go away, right? You still have an Esau. So how do we deal with this confrontation? How do we battle Esau? Yakov hears Esau is still just as strong, right? We work our whole lives refining our Yakov, being spiritual, trying to be a better person, and yet our Esau, our animal soul, is going to be just as strong as he was in the beginning, if not stronger, because the more we feed our body, the more we engage and indulge our materialistic impulses, the stronger our body gets. We identify Elokai neshama shenatata bi. Bi is my body, right? So our first identifier is our bodily physical self. So Yakov we learned from Yakov that he prepared to meet Esau or to encounter Esau in 3 ways. And I found a beautiful teaching of Hasidus and how those interpret into our lives. So the 3 things Yakov did, if we open the Chumash, is the first thing Yakov did is send gifts to Esau. He sent messengers of gifts to appease Esau. He separated them and he gave him lavish gifts. Then he heard that Esau might still be angry at me, and so he davened. He turned to Hashem and he begged Hashem to save him from Esau. He said, "Hashem, save me! I can't do this." And he davens to Hashem and he said, you promised me I'm going to be a big nation. And he turns and he pours his heart out to Hashem in quite a few psukim of beseeching Hashem to save him from his brother Esau. He says, Esau might kill me and there might be bloodshed of Eimal Banim. He says, this is a song. When Yakov feels that even though Hashem promised him that he's going to be okay, why is he still worried? He says, Katainti mikol chasadim, right? That beautiful song. Katainti mikol, and he says, maybe I use up all my merits and I have no more merits, and now I used up all the zchuyos that you promised me. Now I have nothing left because the goodness Hashem showed him so much goodness. He gave me wives and children and wealth. And what if I used up all my zchuyot? So he asks Hashem. He says, "Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav ki yareni mioso." I'm afraid of him, right? I'm afraid of Esau. Pen yaveh vehikani. He might come and kill me. Eimal banim, and also women and children. And Yakov also davened, and he was afraid of that he would have to kill people, that he would have to kill innocent people. And then the third thing he does, the first thing he does is send gifts. Many, many gifts. He sends an abundance of gifts spaced out by a day between each one, so Esau would appreciate them. And then he davens to Hashem. And the last thing he does is he prepares for war. He prepares to fight. He splits his camp into two. He puts the men before the women. Right? We learn that that's what separates Esau from Yakov. Esau put the women before the men, like we see now, that the Esavs still put their women in front as shields before the men. And the children in front. But Yaakov's Midah was always putting the women and children in behind, obviously, to protect them. And that's the third thing he does. So how do we take these? And that's the third thing he does. And in the end, they works. Esau is appeased for the moment. And the Mefarshim say that even though Esau ran to Yakov and asked, Yakov bowed before him 7 times and said, please forgive me. And Esau kissed him. But the Rashi makes sure to bring down that on the words Vayishlach that he kissed him, there's dots. And dots in Torah mean that it's weakening the interpretation, weakening the meaning. And the reason that they weaken, they say that there's halacha. He brings down from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that says that there's halacha that Esau hates Yakov. So he kissed him. Either he didn't mean it, or in the moment it was just a temporary moment where he was taken by the gestures of Yaakov, so he forgot, or he was, his Rahmanas came over, but the minute Yaakov left, it came back. When he left Yaakov, he again realized, oh wait, I hate Yaakov and I want to kill him again. And it reminds us never to forget and never to return to our enemies. And this is something I thought we can learn now, that even though sometimes we lived in Gullus, we lived in other countries where it seems like the non-Jews are suddenly our friends, or it seems like they're befriending us and regretting what they did wrong and, atoning for their past mistakes, not to buy it, but realize that underneath all that is true hatred. Esau son of Yakov is true hatred for Jewish people, and to know that it's there, and to know, and at the same to remember, and not to rely on favors from governments or favors from our enemies, because deep down there's always a sin us to Esau son Yakov. It's how Hashem made the world. So not to be shocked. We shouldn't be shocked that there's so much anti-Semitism coming up, because what's underneath is just coming to the surface. And Hashem made it this way. And that way we only turn to Hashem. We don't turn to anyone else. In the same way Hashem has saved us over and over and over again, Hashem is going to save us again. And at the same time, I heard a really unique take on this now that I never read before, that at the same time we have the capacity to bring out the Rahmanas, that we have the capacity that although Esau son of Yaakov, we only through showing our commitment, because Yaakov said to Esau, I was with Lavan, I kept the Torah mitzvos, I was a strong Jew, I didn't waver in my Judaism and my connection to Hashem, Taryag mitzvah shemarti, that's the message he sent. When we act proud in our Judaism and we're unwavering and not apologetic about our land, about our faith, about our connection to Hashem, about being outside, being proud to be a Jew, when we're unwavering, that's when the non-Jews will respect us. That's when Esau, his nimkaru rachamav, in that moment, their anger and their hate will dissipate only when they see us proud and unapologetic and unwavering and not hiding, not making excuses and not apologizing for our faith, for our heritage, and walking proudly as a Jew. That's when we will see that. So I thought that was a very beautiful and powerful and relevant message to now, specifically about Yakov and Esau. And we are now experiencing Yakov and Esau in the world, and it's terrifying. And I open up social media, or I don't open up social media, and it's in my face. You can't own a phone, I think, without feeling the anti-Semitic hatred from every single, not every single, but from every corner of the world, from the majority of the world. And to the things that should comfort us, or the things that I feel that we could turn to for comfort are remembering that this is how Hashem designed it. They've never been our friends. We've never had true friends. It may have been for a moment, but Yishikehu, a temporary feeling of safety. But at the end of the day, it's only been Hashem who's been there for us. We've never been saved by the governments. They've always turned against us at the last moment. And that should bring us comfort to know that this is just history. There's nothing new. And we shouldn't have turned to them or felt safe with them to begin with at all. And also to remember that that there is a possibility to have a moment of when the nations will support us, and the nations themselves will be our be the ones that bless us, and that will be only when we are unwavering in our commitment and our strength and proudly announcing our commitment to Torah mitzvos, to Emunas Hashem, to what Hashem promised us, to our land, and to following Hashem's ways, and being proud to be a Jew. Shout out to my brother-in-law on campus, Herschel. I love what he started. He goes to every Jew on campus who feels more alone than anyone because their best friends, non-Jews, are not saying a word about their plight, but they're rallying support for our enemies. And every time he sees Jews on campus, he takes a selfie, a video, and he says, "Everyone, 1, 2, 3, I'm proud to be a Jew." And just screaming it out loud, screaming. He did it with us and Mommy and me, right, when he came to visit Israel last week at Baby Cafe. And it just strengthens that. When you just scream out loud, "I'm proud to be a Jew" with your children, scream it in your soul, scream it out loud, it enhances and it fans our flames and it wakens our spark. This actually ties in, I wasn't going to do this now, but it ties into something else in our Parsha where we take it even a step further, where not only does the bad, we learn that in vanquishing darkness, which is what Kislev is all about, what we're living through right now, vanquishing darkness, what this Parsha is all about, in our own soul and outside, there's a few steps of vanquishing darkness. The first step is that the enemies can't hurt us, right? It's making sure that our enemies can't hurt us. And the second step is that the highest level is that not only do our enemies not hurt us, but the darkness itself blesses us. The darkness itself aids our gula, brings our light, turns into light. And in this parsha, we see that when Yakov encounters the Malach, a little bit later on in the parsha, not very much later on, but after Yakov sends gifts, it's the night before his encounter with Esau. This is one of the very, very deep pasuk in the Torah. This is in your source, in the very first source, your source sheet. Actually, Bereshis Lamed Beis Chafei, Vayivasar Yakov Levado. What happened? It says that Yakov spent the night, he went to sleep, then he wakes up, and in the middle of the night, he crosses his wife and children over this Yavok crossing, this Yavok river, a shallow crossing, and all of his possessions. It says, Askola Sharlo. He brings every one of his possessions. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. And then it says, after he brings everything over, Vayivasar Yakov Levado, Yaakov remained alone. Rashi says, why was he alone? Because after he crossed the river over, he realized he left a few small jugs, which actually have a Kabbalistic connection to the jugs of oil, to that last spark of oil, to that remnant, the remaining sparks of Kedusha. And he went back to get those jugs of sparks of Kedusha because he didn't actually need those jugs. It was nothing important in it. There's no powerful medicine in it. We learned that he went back because he wanted to make sure he took all of the sparks of materialism to elevate to Kedusha so he wouldn't have to go back to Haran. He said, I did my time in Haran. I elevated all the sparks. Later on, we see this repeating itself in history in Mitzrayim, when Hashem begged us to take everything out of Mitzrayim so we wouldn't have to go back. Take all of the rechush. Hashem orchestrated it that there was a hunger and that they saved food and that all the money in the world was gathered into Mitzrayim, and we took it all out with us. And Hashem said, take everything, don't leave anything, so that way there's no sparks of Kedusha left, because we're here to elevate every spark in the world. If we take it all out. So Yaakov said, I want to elevate everything, so I'm done my job in Haran. I want to stay in Israel. I don't want to go back to this galus. So Yaakov goes back, and this is the pasuk. Vayivasar Yaakov levado. So now we know why Yaakov remains alone. What? Vayivavek ish imo, and he battles, a man wrestles with him. Ad alaysa shachar, another song, right? Vayivasar Yaakov, right? Live at Tovai. Yavek ishimo adalosa losa shach. No, adalosa shach. My it's a different tune. Shach until the break of dawn. Again, we mentioned earlier that Yaakov's whole essence was fighting darkness, and that's why this big battle that changed Yaakov's whole course of his life happened only at night. And when dawn came, it was over. That was it. His battle was over. Yaakov's whole idea was Erev, and that's why his dream was at night. This was at night. He established Ma'ariv and Erev at night in darkness. So Yakov is the epitome of fighting darkness, of fighting the Esau, his brother that's connected to him. Anyways, at the end of this story, I'm going to fast forward, and at the end of the story, Yakov turns to the angel after they fight the whole night. The angel couldn't overcome him, so he touches Yakov's hip. And the Zohar and Kabbalah tells us that this battle, what's this battle with Esau and darkness? It's a depiction of Yaakov battling all of the Goliaths that are to come. And that's the fighting all the darknesses. And the touching of the hip, he says, although he was injured, a few psukim later, it says after he had this whole story in Shem Ladina, he arrived in Be'er something, not Be'er Sheva, in Kel Roi. I'm going to check. And he arrived shalem, complete. He was completely healed from the injury. And this is an encouragement for us to know that even though we're going to battle through the darkness at night, battling at night is battling all of the Goliaths and all of our enemies, afterwards, you might think that when Mashiach comes, even though we'll win, we're going to still have an injury. We're going to be traumatized, that somehow we're going to be affected from this galus. But we're promised that the same way that Yakov did this and had this battle and came out completely healed, when we come out on the other side, when Mashiach comes, there's going to be no remnants of galus, no scarring whatsoever. And for me, this was a very big comfort, because even though the hostages are returned, we're so worried about the emotional scarring. And we're promised here that even though the scarring is there, it's temporary. And Yaakov was healed and there was no sign of his injury. So we turn to Hashem and dive into Hashem and know that Hashem is infinite. And if Hashem could heal Hashem, we realize that if we go according to natural sources, yes, they will be scarred for life. But if we remember that they're connected to Hashem, who is the healer, that there won't be any scarring, that will come on the other side and they won't have to have scars. They won't have to have that trauma. They could come out without any remnants. And not only that, but the darkness could itself give them light and give them kochos and give them blessings. And we see it specifically here that, let me just open it up. What happens after they fight? And then he says, anyways, I'm going to skip a little bit. At the end, Yakov says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. This is Yakov saying that when we encounter darkness in our life, it's not just there to challenge us and then we win it. If darkness comes into our light, the darkness itself has to bless us. We have to gain something greater from encountering darkness. We have to get a blessing. Hashem doesn't send us darkness just to hurt us. If Hashem sends us darkness, it's because in the darkness there's a blessing for us that we couldn't have gotten without the darkness. So Hashem says, you're not going until you bless me. Lo ashalchecha ki im barachtani. We're not letting go, Hashem. And when we encounter darkness in our life, we can't let go of it. It won't pass us until we realize that we have to find a blessing in the darkness. When we can look at the darkness in our life, this challenge that we're going through, somebody hurting us, somebody distancing themselves from us, a conflict in our lives, a dark thing from outside, God forbid, the challenges that everyone is going through. And we can look at it and say, you are here to bless me. What is your blessing? Let me find the blessing and seek out the blessing in that darkness. Then the darkness can leave and say, okay, I've done my mission. I'm here to bless you. And our job is to be able to look past the darkness and say, in this darkness is a blessing for me. And he says, I'm not letting you until you bless me. So what's the blessing? What is the blessing? Vayomer lav ma shemecha. What's your name? Yakov. Yaakov, he says, is a low name. Yaakov represents Akev, the lowest level, your lowest potential, and it represents trickery, having to reach everywhere you reach through deceit, through trickery, through tricking Lavan, through tricking Esau for the brachos. Until now, you've had to do things in a roundabout way. Lo vayomer lo Yaakov yamar ochen chak im Yisrael. From now on, you're Yisrael. Ki sarisam elokim v'anashim v'tzicha, because you battled with men of God, and you won. And to me, this is such a profound message that his blessing, what is the blessing we get when we battle darkness, when we confront our own inner darkness, when we don't just run away from it and numb it, and when we feel that pain coming up? That's when we confront our darkness, and when we look at it head on, and when we can find the blessing that it has inside for us, then we reach the blessing. Is that Yakov reaches his highest potential, that his highest potential is to be Yisrael. Yisrael means that you are a star from El, you're a leader, you're a master of yourself. You don't have to go in a roundabout way. You can reach this highest, greatest Yakov. We are called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Yisrael, from this blessing that came from a demon. He was literally, the translation of who he battled was the demon of Esau. That's our battles. We're battling our inner demons. We're running away from our inner demons. And when we don't run away and when we confront and we battle in the darkness, when we're alone, that's when we can reach our highest self. That's when we can reach our true inner name, the highest level of name that we could potentially have, our highest potential. One more thing about this is the words Vayibasar Yaakov Levado are very interesting. We'd have to know he left alone. We could have just said that on the way he encountered this person. What does it mean to us that he was left alone? To me, this means that a lot of times our inner demons, we run away from them. And the way we cover up all those scary feelings that come up. This happened to me this week. I was sitting at work and I saw something posted by the state of Israel that made me sick to my stomach. Just someone saying the story of one of the women who was raped, like Dina in this week's Parsha. And not differently, but and it started to bring up really bad demons and feelings inside of me. And my natural instinct is to run away from those feelings and talk to people, usually use my phone, play a game, watch something, just do anything to distract from that pain, close my phone, just run away from it, because it's this horrible feeling coming and it's bringing up very scary, overwhelming feelings that I feel like I'm going to drown in if I even go there. And that time I decided I'm not going to run away. I'm just going to, I was alone. And I think that we're never alone. And it's only when we're alone that we can confront that only our greatest demons, our biggest challenges in life, that darkness that we have to work through to reach our highest self. And every one of us lies this darkness, this deep darkness, because we're all made up of dark and light. And we need to find a point in our life where we can confront that darkness and face it and battle with it and be there in it, in the trenches with that darkness. And when we can face our darkness, that's when we can only then we can reach our highest self. As long as we're running away from the darkness and we're avoiding it, we're never going to be able to reach our highest self because it's there and we're just numbing from it. And I think that the only way you could ever battle the darkness is when you're left alone, because we can distract from it as long as we're around people, as long as now we're almost never alone because our phone makes sure that we always have something to distract us. Sometimes the only time we're alone is Friday night when you can't use your phone, the guests have gone, you're in your bed, and you ran out of books to read, or your light's off, right? And then you're left alone, and then suddenly scary feelings come up, or sad feelings come up, or feelings you don't want to have, jealousy, hurt, feelings that are dark, feelings that I don't want to have these dark feelings. I don't want to feel like I'm a jealous person. I'm above jealousy. I'm above all these bad feelings that come up. And only when you're alone, I feel like you can really challenge us. We can really go confront these feelings. So in that moment, I decided it's too scary. What I'm feeling right now is terrifying. Watching and hearing what this woman went through, literally, I was scared. I'm just going to break down. So I decided I'm just going to sit with my feeling of it. I'm not going to watch it, obviously, but I'm just going to, instead of taking out my phone and playing a game or whatever I was going to do to numb that feeling of pain, I'm just going to allow that feeling to be there and sit with it, and then I'll go to my phone. So I allowed myself 1 minute, as long as I can handle, just for that feeling to be there. And I think I used a little bit of Hannah Rothberg's technique that she taught us, tapping, just to like allow that feeling when it gets too much. And just saying, like, just being gentle and curious with that feeling. Like, what am I feeling? So I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling darkness. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling horrible. I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling all of these bad feelings. And that's okay. Like, I'm not going to, feeling those things, I won't die if I feel those things, right? I might feel like I'm drowning. I might feel like I'm dying, but just to be gently curious with them. And then, and then after doing that, then I could go and distract. But after doing that already, so many of the feelings dissipated, so many of the feelings passed. When you're able just to confront them and say, confront those deepest, darkest feelings. I'm not saying this is what Yakov did. This is just a tiny example of, I think, how we can implement that in our lives rather than running. It's when you're alone and you just choose to put away your phone and any distraction that doesn't make you be alone and allow you to just gently, what I love Hannah's word is to just accept. I say, I accept that I'm feeling sad. I accept that I'm feeling broken. I accept that I'm feeling ashamed. I accept that I'm feeling guilty that this happened to her. I accept all of these horrible feelings. I accept that I don't know what I'm feeling. I accept that I have no idea what I'm feeling, that it's scary, and that I'm feeling terrified, and that I don't even know what to feel. And then I'm sending love. I'm just sending love and hugs through my breath to those feelings, just through deeply breathing into the feelings and having that breath be a comfort. I'm comforting those feelings. I'm comforting, and that I accept that I'm feeling that, and I'm comforting that. And to me, that was like a tiny victory, because most of the times I don't do that. Most of the times I do numb those feelings because they're terrifying. But having one time that you can do it is so powerful, and that's confronting darkness. And when you do that, that's when you reach your highest source, your highest potential. And circling back to what we were talking about in the beginning, this is what it means, that darkness should not only does darkness not the highest level of, not only does darkness not bother us like Esau, but the darkness itself becomes a blessing for us. And we have to understand that. And that's why Yaakov said, Ki barachtani, and he gave him this bracha. And then again, it says, Vayevarach oso, and then he left, right? That's the end of that side. That is so much meaning. It is so much depth. Learn it inside. Let it give you strength. Let it give you amunah. I never went back to Esau. Okay, now going back to Esau. How do we translate those 3 steps that Yaakov did to confront the darkness that he was facing, the Esau he was facing in our own lives? So the first thing that we do is shocking, actually, because Yaakov sending gifts to Esau, to his enemy, and our body, we learned that the first thing we need to do is take care of our body. Is we need to send gifts and lavish our body, appease our body by giving it gifts. When our body is fighting us and saying, no, don't do that, and it's battling us and it's pulling us down, we need to say, I need to take care of my body too. He's here with me. We're living together. We have to work in this together. So we send gifts. We nurture our body. We nourish our body. We sleep. We exercise. We make sure our body is healthy. And when our body is nurtured and appeased and healthy, we have a much bigger chance of working with him and having a healthy body. When our body is angry and hangry and tired, our body is going to work against us. So the first thing we do is lavish our body with gifts. Send it all the gifts it needs. Think, what does my body need right now? My body is screaming at me and pulling me down, and I can't be spiritual until I first appease my body, right? I'm a physical being at the end of the day. I'm a spiritual being in a physical body. And my physical body is going to be crying until I take care of it, right? So let me think my body needs. I need to rest. I need to give it healthy food. I need to take it on walks. I need to make sure it has vitamins and fresh air and all of the things our body needs, not just the bare minimum. We don't just give, you didn't give Esau the bare minimum. And we don't just give our body the basics. We make sure our body has everything it needs to flourish and thrive and be the best body to carry, to be the best vessel for our neshama in this life, to be the best conduit for us, the healthiest conduit, the most productive. And sometimes even spoil your body, give it, nourish it, pamper it, take a bath, right? Take a walk in nature, do extra for your body so your body is connected. And when your body feels safe and nourished and taken care of, then the body and the soul can connect much more. And I just felt this, that like through nature, through making my body feel alive in nature, my neshama, I feel connected to my neshama. I feel like there's less of a gap between my body and neshama. They're not in rivalry so much. When my body is nourished, when it's out and experiencing the beautiful world that Hashem made, that's like kind of, for me, nature is a bridge, a little bit of a bridge to distance the gap between my Yakov and Esau inside. It's like an appeasement for both. My neshama can connect to the beauty in kedusha in the nature, and my body can appreciate the external beauty in nature. So do things externally for your body and take care of it. And that's for me the shocking first approach. Yeah, someone was going to add something. Shira, you weren't raising your hands? Okay. The second thing is that how do we make sure we don't overdo indulging our body, right? Because if we indulge our Esav and overdo it, then our Esav gets stronger than us. If we pass over, it's a balance. Because if we indulge Esav too much, then it could lead to temptation, to doing things that are negative, to living an indulgent life, a materialistic life that makes us feel empty. And if we get too crossover into materialism and making sure that everything we have is beautiful, and like I'm talking to myself, like shopping online for hours and like wanting to have the perfect everything, house and wardrobe, then it suffocates us, it drowns us, and we're drowned in materialism. And then our Esau takes over, and then our Yakov is suffering. So how do we make sure we daven? That we do what Yakov did. He davened to Hashem. We say, Hashem, help us. Sometimes my Esau is just too much. It wants too much for me. My Esau is just drowning me. My Esau inside of me, my battle, I can't win it. This Esau, this pull to materialism, it's just taking over my life, right? I'm becoming obsessed with materialism, with nice things, with indulgent things. Hopefully it's just permissible things and not, crossing over into things that are harmful and things that are usher. But when we cross into that space, when we feel like our Esau is pulling us and it's too much for us and we're drowning in it, that's when we turn to Hashem and daven. And davening connects us to our neshama. So we daven 3 times a day. We wake up in the morning. We connect to our soul. We make sure that we meditate. We meditate and connect to our neshama. And in those moments when we're having this battle, sometimes the battle comes not when we're davening. Sometimes this big battle, this pull for materialism, to do something that's physically unhealthy for us, to binge eat, whatever it is that our Esau is pulling us to do that's bad for us, and binge eat, etc., and do things, follow our eyes to places that shouldn't go. When those moments happen, that's when we stop and we meditate and we beg Hashem. We beseech Hashem and say, Hashem, save me from my Esau. I can't do it alone, but you could, Hashem. And that's what Tanya tells us to do. We're not alone in this battle. Alone, sometimes Esau is way stronger than us. We have enemies way larger than us fighting us over the years. We can't win them alone. But if we turn to Hashem and daven, then Hashem will save us from our enemies. So when our Esau inside of us is too strong for us to win, and we have this urge and temptation that we can't win, just beg Hashem for Rahmanas, and Hashem will help you and make it easier for you to overcome your Esau. And the third thing, so nourishing your body, davening to Hashem to rescue you from the Esau inside of you, to rescue you from your impulsive desires. And the third thing, and if you're not even davening, because not all of us have time to fully daven, meditate. Davening is talking to Hashem. Talk to Hashem, right? Daven if you can. Say words of Tehillim wherever you can. Talk to Hashem. Say Moda'ani, or meditate in your neshama, inside your soul. And all of that is not enough, because at the end of the day, we have to fight a war with Esau. We have to fight the Esau inside of us. Sometimes it's not enough to appease. It's not enough to pray. We have to actually engage in battle and eradicate Esau and Hamas, the today Esau, off the face of the planet. And inside of us, sometimes we have to be ready for war. And being ready for war is being aware that sometimes it's going to come down to a battle where we're going to really have to fight, and it's going to be really hard, and we're going to have to fight to do the right thing, and we're going to have to push and push and push, and sometimes just yell at our Esau and say, no, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not giving in. This is not important. That's not what life is about. I'm not succumbing to that, right? And say no and yell. We literally says we should fight and battle like we're wrestling with our enemy. And so wrestle with that part of us and says, no, I'm not listening to you. You don't want what's good for me. This is not good for me. This is going to harm me later. I'm going to feel horrible later, etc. So sometimes it says literally, it says that sometimes at times during the day or at night, we're taken over by a powerful animalistic Esau-like urge. It's burning in our hearts like a baker's furnace. And at such a moment, there's only one thing to do. You take your fist, punch the impulse in its face, and get on with your life. War is a nasty thing. but at times our only hope to survive the onslaught of a demon that's determined to kill us. For me, that line was so relevant now that yes, war is horrible. Yes, innocent. Yes, Yakov davened that he shouldn't have to hurt innocent people. Yes, of course we feel that pain, but sometimes it's the only hope and the only way to survive a demon that's determined to kill us. And that was written about the Esav inside of us, the Esav outside of us, and about all of our enemies that are trying to kill us. It's not pretty, and sometimes it has to be done nonetheless. Okay, so that was part number 1 of this class. I hope I tied up all the loose ends. I'm going to do another part 2 in a moment about the feministic side of the Parsha, about Dinah, the abduction of Dinah, and it's how the Rebbe flips over the natural approach to look at what it says that Dinah brought it upon herself by being outgoing and going out alone, and how the Rebbe says that it's the opposite. It's a hara'ah for every one of us. It's a lesson that every Jewish girl should go out and be like Dinah and go out and try to influence and be outgoing and be an influencer and try to influence the world. And yeah, if you want to stay tuned for that, that will be the next class. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And next week, I think will be a special Hanukkah class on the essence of Hanukkah, the deep light of Hanukkah. And I hope this year to release a short few-minute video every single night of Hanukkah with a little bit of light about a little bit of Hanukkah message. I've been wanting to do it for years, but this year I'm ready. Hopefully. Thank you so much for joining. If you enjoyed this video, share it with your friends. And if you subscribe and do the notification bell, then you'll get notified every time there's a video, and you won't have to wait for me to send it to you.